When I stopped recording, I started to put my images in the shape that I had made to tessellate. I hadn't put the flag in yet, but as I put the flag in, I realized that would make a really great background. So I overlaid it and then went through, and I'll show you on the history bar here, then went through and erased all of the flag except for my shape. So now I have that as the background rather than the green. Now to tessellate this and create that radial design, I'm going to use the selection tool to select all the area around the shape. And you'll see like there are some little pieces in here that are selected. So actually, I'm just going to go in with the eraser, going with quite a big eraser, and just clean up any of those shapes that might be, any of those marks that might be left behind, just from not erasing it clearly enough the first time. Make sure that this finished project here is the best that it can be. So let's try that again. Alright, and actually before I can even do that, I have all these layers here. And I'm going to start by saving it as a PXD. So I can keep all those layers just in case something happens and I need to move them around or anything like that. And I'm actually going to give it a number because I already have a radial tessellation there. So now I have these layers saved within this shape. Now I need to flatten the image. And that is a similar thing that happens when we save it as a JPEG, but it puts them all on the same plane. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out. Now I'm going to use the magic wand tool to select all the white space. And there are a few less areas selected. For the sake of this, I'm going to go on with the video. If I were in your shoes, I would deselect this all now and erase some of the spots. Actually, you know what? Let's just do it. Just get rid of all these other areas that keep getting selected. And I'm being very careful not to erase on my image. That's better. Still not the best, but it's better. Alright, then we edit invert selection, and this is exactly what we did last week. I've inverted it so now just the shape is selected. I'm going to copy it and then paste it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more times. So if you look on the layers toolbar, you'll see all those 5 different shapes. Now the background is the one that we're leaving the same. And to make my life a little bit easier right now, I'm going to hide all but one of the shapes besides the background. And that is going to help me just to make sure this is lining up perfectly. I don't have any of the other shapes underneath to kind of get in the way or cloud kind of what I'm looking at. So line it up and fit it into place. Enter when I get it where I want it. And then again, I can use my keyboard arrows to move it, those little last nudges that it might have to be moved. Alright, and you can just finagle into place. Then I'll show the next image, or the next layer. Free transform. Whoops. Press escape, that'll undo stuff. Always make sure you're selected on the layer you need to be selected on. Free transform. Again, turning it same direction. Get it mostly lined up. The more particular you are at this point in the game with getting these lined up, the easier your life will be later on because you won't have those tiny little gaps that need to get worked out that result from being off by a pixel or two. Next layer, show, free transform. Line it up. Oh. All right, next layer, and so on and so forth. And it does make it a lot easier if you're only looking at, you know, the one layer at a time. Now here I have a slight problem because my image is going off the side of the canvas. You do not want to save it like that. So I'm just going to move it here for now, put it there, and then I'm going to change my canvas size quickly. Sometimes just where they get set up, you have to adjust. If I were to have entered that in, then I would have lost the edge of it there. And of course, there's nothing wrong. We want to anchor this in the center. So we're going to free transform that there. Okay. So when you make your canvas size bigger, we're just changing this to 1200. We're actually going to anchor in the center. You want the center square to be selected, and then it'll stay in the center. So now, back on the last layer I was on, I can continue free transforming that. And what layer was that? There we go. All right, and then I have my last layer. And it should fit perfectly in that little space, but I'm guessing it won't, because even though I've done this many times, still getting it to line up perfectly it's an art. Which is why you have so much stinking time on this project, because I know it's going to take everyone a little bit longer than they just think it's going to. I'm going to leave it right about there. And you can see these white spaces in here. So what I'm going to do is systematically go back each layer. We'll get them back in order. Systematically go back to each layer, free transform it. And this is like the tedious spot here where you're just kind of finagling to fill in those last white spots. Head back to our background here. And I'm actually going to unlock that. And then go through until I get all of them right where I want them. The final thing you want to do is crop down any extra white space. You don't really need all of that. You want just the image. And then you can save it again twice. You're saving it as a JPEG at 100% or at a quality of 100 into your H drive, and you're saving it as a PXD. And in this case, you're saving it as a PXD because I'm probably going to come around and tell you something that you could have done differently or better. I know how much you all hate that, but it's probably going to happen. So save it that way in case, just in case you need to make any final changes. And that is your first image done. So we can close out of there. Then you're going to open up your square image. And yes, I made you do the harder one first. Don't fret about it, it's fine. And here you're going to do something very similar to what we did with the circle. You're going to use this lasso tool, and on the left-hand edge, it doesn't matter where you start, just to make sure it's lined up the same down at the bottom when you're done. But your left edge is going to line up with your bottom. On this one, you know, I think I might make it a weird zigzag shape. And you know what, that went off this edge too much, so I'm going to redo that. You have to try and be a little more precise than me sometimes. Stopping right at that corner, much better. Again, Control X. You're going to erase this last little line here. We don't want that guy stuck behind. And Control V. Then edit, free transform. And actually, all you have to do is, you're not going to edit free transform. You're going to edit. You're going to layer, rotate layer 90 degrees CW. And then we'll move it into place. I'm going to go just on the edge down here. And you see how that the top of that one kind of mountainy shape will be cut off? Again, we don't want to do that. So we have to come up here first to our canvas size and just make that a bit bigger and anchor it to the middle. Then we can move that shape on down to line up. All right, again, you're going to flatten the image or merge down, and then you can start adding on your shapes. Once all of your images are added on, you will save it as PXD and JPEG, then you'll flatten it. Again, select the background, invert selection. So you have to pretend just on here that you know all of my stuff is pasted on there. It would be the other 7 images or 6 images, however many symbols I have left in my personal narrative. And a new image. And that last one was 800 by 800. So I'm going to go ahead and make this next one 2000 by 2000, just so that I know there's a lot of working space within the image. We can always crop it down later if we need to. So make sure I've copied that here and paste it. And I'll move that. And that is obviously way more space than I needed. However, that's fine. I'm going to paste it on there 4 times. So I have layer 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last time our layer 1 went up in this top left quadrant, this time it's going to go in the top right, just to make things a little bit easier. My layer 2, I am going to fill that in so it's a different color so you can see it a little bit better. And then edit. Remember, this is the easy one, so you're just going to rotate 90 CW. And it'll fit in place with the first square we've made. Layer 3 I'm going to leave as it is for moving it, but I'm going to rotate layer 90 CW twice. At this point you're like, Mrs. Whittle, why'd you do the hard one first? Why'd you do the circle one first? Well, because I don't know. Layer 4, again, I'm going to paint bucket fill so you can just see that it's a different layer. And this one we are going to rotate 90 degrees CW 3 times. And then we will fit that into place. Alright, at that point you want to make sure it all lines up much better. Obviously I'm not doing a great job of that, but you know what you need to do. Do as I say, not as I do, right? But we'll get that lined up. Once you have that, you want to merge the visible layers, and you'll just get your background. And then what is way cooler to do is